Very happy New Year to everybody. I hope you had a good New Year's Eve. If you enjoyed either going out for New Year's Eve or watching the football or a combination of the two, we're ready to kick off the new year with the second to last NFL slate of the season, regular season NFL slate of the season. There's Rody coming on in. And I'm sure Mr. Firestone shall be joining us very shortly. And we should be ready to go. There's Rody right over there.
Hey, what's up?
Hey, what's going on? Just waiting on Bobby, and then we will get things going. I presume Bobby's coming, right?
I think so.
Yeah. Corner. Is there any news we're waiting on particularly?
Yeah, I think Christian Watson, but we won't know that till later.
Okay.
I mean,
What's
it
up,
makes
guys?
Lazard a big play, or a bigger play, but not much news today, I don't think.
Well, guys, happy New Year and happy New Year to the DFS community, the True DFS community. We've got a fun year ahead of us. Hopefully it starts with Rody winning $1 million today, or Sheets winning $1 million, or me winning $1 million, or one of you guys out there, because I see that Rody's going pretty heavy today, man. You got those 2,200 tickets wrapped up?
Oh man, I've been smashing the saddies for that, man. I got up to 8 entries, man.
I just put a not an insignificant amount of money on you here today, and same with Sheets. So if I don't get it,
well, you know, Bobby, you know how much I put on him today.
I know exactly. It's a 24-24 situation.
That is correct.
Yeah.
All right. Well, guys, this is a really, look, it's the end of the year. It's a weird slate. So I can't remember, and it's weird because this year when I've spread out more, I've tended to have better results. I'm pretty spread out today. I think you could make an argument for 14 quarterbacks. The one I am not going to play, who's going to have some ownership, and I'm not going to play his receivers. And look, this could come back to burn me because they've been on the winning lineup at least 3 or 4 times for the millionaire this year. But I'm not buying into the Jacksonville thing. I'm not saying that I'm right, but it just feels, for a completely meaningless game when you can make the playoffs, which seemed completely impossible at one point of the season. Why are you going to risk that? Why? I just can't see it. So even if they do play, I don't know that they play the whole game. And you could run the ball on Houston anyway, so they could take turns just handing the ball off. I just am off of that. That's my one take, I guess, is I'm just off of Jacksonville. And the guys who I'm most overweight on, and I'm going to get over to you, Rody, the stacks, and then we'll go to Sheets. But I'm just curious, because I'm very, very high on quarterbacks I didn't want to play all season long, and it's been really good not to have played them. But Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady are both showing up for me today a little bit. There's a lot of banged up secondary in Carolina. I really liked Carolina to win that game until I saw the guys who were out. Got a little more concerned now. So Rodgers, Fields, Mahomes, Minshew, and Brady being my main quarterbacks, but I am throwing in a couple of the minimum stacks of just Blau to Dortch, and maybe it's one of those days where 18 to 20 from a quarterback can get you there if nobody else gets above 30 because they're so cheap, and then you could sort of just play every piece you want around those two. But mainly, I have Rodgers as my most owned quarterback, and I have Fields as my second most owned quarterback right now. More Mahomes on FanDuel, but I do have Mahomes on as another big one as well. And again, getting to some Brady, and I'm just gonna, I like Goff fine today, but I'm just gonna be well below the field there, play more of DeAndre Swift in the running game, and hope that Goff doesn't put up 40 or something like that. That's sort of my overall, just the things that I'm stacking. But I do like the Chicago-Detroit game. I just want to play the Chicago side because it's going to be significantly lower owned. I'd like to get to more Jets in Seattle. I'm not finding myself doing it enough. Minnesota Green Bay being my favorite game, along with Chicago Detroit. So that's sort of just like an overall of how I'm building today. What are you doing, Rody? And then we'll get over to Sheets.
I might like the Jacksonville game just a little bit more, and that's just because there's like 1.5 million worth of bonuses for Christian Kirk and Zay Jones on the line in the next 2 games.
Mm-hmm.
They're looking for 80 and 90 catches. They're looking for over 1,000 yards, and they could pace for that if they do well. So there's huge bonuses for that game. So I think they want to play.
I'm sorry, Kirk and
What?
who?
Kirk and Zay Jones both have huge bonuses. They're at 75 and 76 catches. So if they can get over 80 or one can get over 90 in the next 2 games, they get like 250K to 500K. Zay Jones needs to get over 1,000 yards. He's like 100 and some short. I think he's at 800 some yards. He might be 200 short in the next 2 games. And Christian Kirk's only like 40 yards from 1,000. So that's another 250 for him. So there's just a lot of bonuses on the line today. Some of these things I'm targeting. So I don't think they're going to want to sit. And I think they're going to tell their coach they're going to play. So and sometimes they go for that. Sometimes they just say, hey, we're taking you guys out. We need to win next week. So it could bust me a little bit, but I like those guys a little bit in that Jags game. I like the Mahomes stack today a little bit. I like some of the same things Bobby was saying. I want to play this Jets Seattle game, but I can't get to it yet either. I'm going to have a Herbert stack. I mean, I got to play Chargers. We can't go this show without talking about some Chargers. They're in a dome game. I like the Jags because they're in a dome game. And then, the Chicago Detroit game, I do like the field side, like Bobby was saying a little bit more. I think I'm going to do a fields naked in one of my bigger buy-ins. I don't know. I like Komet pair with them if you want to do the tight end wise, but so yeah, I'm pretty tight on those stacks, and then I'm just kind of filling in my pieces from there. So
yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. I like what you just mentioned, and I'll throw that in there. I'm just going to make sure to have a couple of Rams Chargers stacks, and it's interesting because the Rams offer a ton of value if you do want to go that route, and you can again build a stack, a complementary stack along with the stack of that game by using the Rams, like the guys like Atwell.
Atwell's cheap. Yep.
Yeah.
One other thing I didn't mention: Mahomes is 280 yards from 500 or 5,000 passing yards. So I think he's going to be chucking it today. So another thing I like that. I've just been listening to a lot of these prop guys talk about the bonuses for these players. It's kind of getting me on some of these players. So I hope it works out a little bit well for me. But like I don't bet too many props and stuff like that. But I've been listening on some of these shows, seeing which guys are chasing, yardage totals. Justin Jefferson's kind of close to that, but he's almost at 2,000. I don't think he can get the total one over Kelvin or who's he trying to beat? What's the yards he needs to get to beat?
It was Cooper, wasn't it?
Cooper. Yeah, you're right. Not Kel. Yeah, the new one.
17 game record. I think the 16 game is still your boy CJ. But yeah, that's interesting. I always find that stuff interesting. Unfortunately, all those teams have things to play for left, so it's harder for me to put the emphasis as if they, than if they were playing for nothing. But I do like the Mahomes idea because I think that's a situation where he's playing for the MVP, and they don't care. If they air it out for 3 quarters, that might be good enough. And you've got a natural run back in Sutton as a cheap play. So
yeah, I like the Sutton call. Yep, I got him in my Mahomes lineup.
How about you, Sheets? What are you looking at?
A couple of things. First of all, just so you guys and the whole community is not hallucinating, just everybody remember that because of the way they flex the TV schedule, the different sites are have different slates. That Rams Chargers game is only available on DraftKings. And the DraftKings does not have the Steelers Ravens game, but FanDuel and Yahoo do have the Ravens game, even though it's an 8:20 p.m. game. They're making that part of their main slate, and Rams Chargers is not on FanDuel. So everybody if you're trying to go line and say, well, why am I not getting Eckler on freaking FanDuel? All right, it's not there. Yeah. Second thing I want to mention, I'll address 2 of your points. First of all, the Jacksonville thing. And this has obviously been a big talking point throughout the course of the week, and this is where I come down on it. Okay. If everybody's so confident that if Jacksonville plays and starts all their guys, they're just automatically smashing. You know what I mean? Like the way I look at it is this: there are a couple of ways this can go. Like either the coach told the truth and he's going to play all his guys the whole game, or he didn't tell the truth and they're going to rest or just not go full out. they do not go full out, they have no chance of being in the winning lineup. Okay, really.
Mm-hmm.
And here's the thing: even if they do go all out, that doesn't necessarily mean they smash. You know what I mean? Like, just because they decide that they feel like winning, Houston gets paid too. You know what I mean? And it's not as if the coach can say, okay, I'm going to make all the DFS lineups optimal just by starting these guys. You know what I mean? So for me, with all those things factored in, I think Jacksonville's probably a fade. Okay. The second thing is related to the bounties that you mentioned, Rody. Specific to fantasy, that means a little something to me, but just be careful about the props part of it. Because if you're going to bet a prop based on bonuses and stuff, I promise you that's factored into the line. Promise you. Okay. Because the props line is based on what people are going to bet or have been betting. And when a prop comes out and then they say, ooh, this prop has to be low because he's going for a bonus. No. If the guy's going for a bonus, that's the kind of obvious thing that's out there that's going to be factored into the line. So if anything, I'd probably go under on all the guys that are going for bonuses if I were betting props. But in DFS, for the purposes of figuring out whether they're going to play, I still think that's got to be factored in kind of a little bit. Now, I'm not as into the Mahomes thing because he can get 280 yards in a quarter if he feels like it. I don't, you know what I mean? I'm not. I don't feel as though it's. But I mean, he's probably just a good play anyway, right? So those are my overall opinions on that. The other thing I want to mention before I get into my top thing, just because you mentioned this, that you're going to have big exposure to Rodgers. I don't want to say be careful in the wrong way, but as Rody was saying, Watson is not clear yet whether he's playing. Just make sure that you leave yourself some options to go to Lazard, or I don't know how you were going to handle it. But remember, those guys are Watson is not guaranteed to be in yet. Not to mention, do we have confirmation on Aaron Rodgers yet?
What is the confirmation you're looking for?
Not Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Jones.
No.
Right. So if you're gonna go heavy on Green Bay, that's a later game, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just leave yourself the opportunity to do stuff with it. The other thing is that as far as my stuff goes, and this is going to determine whether I play some of these big buy-ins, because I'm currently not, and the reason why I'm not is I can't figure out what I want to play except for Detroit. I'm looking at Detroit every time I try to run this stuff, and I'm like, I'm getting 1,000,000% Detroit. I pare it down, I get 25%, which I'm kind of happy with. It's fair enough. But they're going to be so chalky that in a big buy-in, I feel as though I'm just spinning my wheels playing. So I'm going to hopefully from the next half an hour kind of glean something from you guys that'll lean me towards something different, because I'm not going to compete in the Wildcat with other people playing Detroit. It's just I'm just not doing it. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just the only thing that I would say about the Detroit is that this is so stupid, but the one way you can get different, and we spoke about the other ways. We spoke about playing Fields, right, on the other side. But another thing that you can do is you're going to probably get Cole Kmet in 400% of the Lions stacks. You know what I mean? Like you're going to get all the Lions, and
I don't think Kmet's going to be owned at all.
I think he's going to be 25%. But we'll see.
I don't think there's a world where that's possible. But maybe, I don't know.
I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll do over under 25% in the Wildcat for $1.
Okay, you're in on that one. You got it.
Wildcat.
That's pretty high, Sheets. That's pretty high.
25 is a lot.
Yeah, that's a lot.
All right. But what I was going to say is that I'd be willing to go instead to chase Claypool, who wasn't even supposed to, wasn't officially declared active until 2 days ago. So maybe people aren't as on him, and they're not on him. So I figured that if I'm right, and maybe I'm not right, but if Kmet's going to be the main run back, I would probably just go to Claypool. That's the only thing I can think of. And the other one I would mention, who I brought up earlier in the week, and here's another one where I didn't promise you, but I thought that he ended up being popular. I was dead wrong. He's still going to be 0% owned. Is that you can run it back with Khalil Herbert from Chicago, as a pass catcher at 4K at running back. And maybe that's something that you can do. Again, really high variance. He might get 2 2 targets the whole game, whatever. But that's my comment, is that Detroit is still rating as my top stack by a lot. After that, I'm spread all everywhere. I mean, I got 10%. I'm like Diener everywhere after that. I got like little at KC, Chicago. I mentioned the Jets. I do have a little Jacksonville, and you name the team, I probably have some. San Fran, Seattle. I mean, just right down the list.
Sheets, why not Montgomery instead? Like, he's going to be unowned and he's an actual player.
I'm just thinking of the passing game.
Well, but you said, because if you're going to play the Lions stack, though, you probably want the running game on the other side more than the passing game, right? Because
I think the same
Herbert Field. Actually, it's so funny. I wasn't thinking that way. I was thinking that Montgomery would be more in play if, I don't know, that was a lower scoring game. I don't know. Maybe you're right.
Oh, maybe, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, so Montgomery, maybe that there's some truth to that, but I just think in general with the with those situations that it's just naturally I gravitate towards the running back opposite.
I got 5% Montgomery. I got that.
Like, Montgomery's carrying the ball, they're up by 2 scores, and then Detroit's airing it out to come back, kind of a thing. That was just my only thought there. If you could play 2 quarterbacks like back in the day in Fantasy Aces, I would love to play Fields Fields and what's his name together.
But as far as stacks goes, that's where I'm at. I have Detroit, and I'm struggling to find something, not something better, but something that I think that can really compete. And I thought about the Packers one, like you were saying. I don't know. I don't know if I can do it. That would probably be. I shouldn't say that. Well, let's talk through some more of these games. Maybe it'll hit me.
Mm-hmm. Well, so the Packers thing is just, I mean, must win. Look, every week, and the Minnesota is just, they get torched every week. It doesn't matter who they're playing, and they still always win at the end. It's a great matchup, and the fact that it's at home in Green Bay and a must-win spot against this defense when Minnesota has awesome run backs every which way. I just can't avoid it. I would sort of just kick myself if I didn't get at least.
Well, I'll definitely be playing in the late slate with probably 80% of the pool, probably.
Yeah. By the way, in the late slate, I'm going to throw a Baker Mayfield lineup into one. For what it's worth, I don't think these 4K running backs are viable today. Any of them. I don't think these are even a thing. There's so many good running backs in the 5K range that I have absolutely no way to even get to these guys. I maybe in the 150s, I guess you could script like a couple % for Herbert or something, or a % for Chase Edmonds, something like that. But because we're getting that question in there, Edmonds is probably the one I would side with if I had to pick a really cheap one to answer the question that popped up. But I really like Brian Robinson and Algier, I think are just awesome plays, and they're going to be owned. But I like both of them. I think
that was an amazing transition. So we're in the running back now. Awesome.
Yeah, that's what we're doing, though, right? The
awesome. Excellent. Perfect.
We don't need the quarterbacks because we just.
No, what's perfect is usually you stop saying, "Okay, let's talk about running backs." This time you took like the sentence from the previous.
I tried. I'm trying to get better.
Right into it. That was awesome. I'm
trying to get
back by it. That I'm like, oh my god, what just happened?
But I love these 5K running backs. I love the Zonovan Knight. I love Algier. I love Brian Robinson. I like DeAndre Swift a lot. I don't think I'm going to do the Zach Moss thing. I might get a little bit of Pacheco. So those are the 5K guys. And it looks like Aaron Jones is in.
Okay.
No injury designation, but I don't have any problem with playing the low-owned Dillon when we think that, look, they're going to put their best guys on the field no matter what. So sort of going back to what Sheets first said earlier when we recorded this week, Sheets, is let's play A.J. Dillon if Jones plays, because just because Jones plays doesn't mean he's going to be the primary back, especially if he does seem legitimately banged up. And I think there's a real argument there to play some of the A.J. Dillon. So any lineups that I do have with Cousins, which I've got a few, will have A.J. Dillon probably in it and not Aaron Jones. And I will throw Aaron Jones into, just in case, like a cheaper one Rodgers stack. But the spend ups for me, like it's very logical to just play McCaffrey, right? Like it just makes sense on a lot of levels. I think Justin Jefferson has a bigger ceiling, and that's the way I'm treating it, even though it's a running back position. So I do have McCaffrey, but I'm going to probably end up slightly below the field because he's going to have so much ownership. I'm just going through the running backs that are going to be popular. I'm going to be below the field on James Conner. I'm going to be below the field on Saquon, even though I actually do have some Saquon. I'll probably end up right near the field with like Ramondre Stevenson. I'll be below the field on Etienne. I'll be above the field on Kenneth Walker. I'll be above the field on DeAndre Swift, above the field big time on Dalvin Cook. And I will be below the field on Eckler, which is kind of funny because that's kind of the nuts. You know what I mean? Like Eckler, it feels a little weird that Eckler is getting so overlooked on this slate, but I still don't find myself living to him. And then again, I want to get the A.J. Dillon super low owned exposure. And one more, in your Brady stacks or away from it, I do think Leonard Fournette. I mean, this guy is getting like more targets than DeAndre Hopkins. Come on, let's go. I'm in on that. So I have some spread out stuff, but mostly it's going to be the 5 core main pieces. And my favorite of the fact that James Conner is going to be, more than 2.5 times, whatever, the ownership of Dalvin Cook. I'll just play Dalvin Cook all day. Also, it leaves me flexibility if I try to play 3 or 4 players minimum in the late games in case we get Christian Watson news that allows you to rebuild other ways. So just want to throw that out there. So those are my guys. If you like it running back, then we'll jump over to Rudy.
Yeah, so I have currently like 40% McCaffrey, but what's cool about it is that it's late game, and there's like a zillion ways to screw around. Especially considering that Jefferson, you know what I mean? Like you have all this stuff that you can do in the late game. Right now, that's where I have it at about 40% of McCaffrey. But then the next guy that again I'm probably with the field on him, and just these. I'm just gonna probably eat this. Is Brian Robinson? I have him like I guess right with the field. I have him like 27%. That's probably what he's going to be. You already mentioned Connor, so I'm actually more on Barkley than I thought earlier this week. I have him at about actually I might still even be less than the field. I have him at 17%, which probably is not even with the field. I guess people are going to play.
Yeah.
And then I do have Algier, and then other guys I have over 10% is Miles Sanders from Philly. And then I want to talk to you about 2 guys. So I want to talk to you about the Ramondre Stevenson and Kenneth Walker, because both of them I have, I think, too little of, but then too much of. You know what I mean? So this one, I have like 10% of both of them. And when I first did my runs, I was getting like so much Ramondre Stevenson, and like almost no Kenneth Walker. So I had to manufacture like more for Kenneth Walker. And then when the coach came out and said Kenneth Walker was a full go and said he had fresh legs and all this stuff, I believe it. And he's explosive. And I liked him more than Stevenson. And then like if Harris is going to play, like, and I don't know if that's confirmed yet, but if Harris is in fact going to play, how good of a play is Stevenson? And that's a question that I think we really need to answer. So that's everybody I got over 10% running back wise. What do you think of Stevenson? What do you think of Harris news and all that?
For me personally, it affects things a little bit because it's just that without Harris, they just give Ramondre the ball every time. But I mean, Damian Harris is like Ramondre's their guy. Like it's not like a question. He is clearly the best player on that football team, probably at any position, at least on offense. Probably, if honestly, maybe you can argue for defense. I think this guy's one of the best running backs in football. So even if Harris plays, I'm not letting it, like, that's not what's deterring me necessarily so much. It's just that we play Dalvin Cook at 7K in the game I like the best. And that's pretty much my only answer. And look, there's a lot of guys making, good comments here in chat, including Scott from PokerX, like all these guys, like you could make an argument for a Bridgewater stack with Stevenson on the other side, because you have Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle unowned basically for the first time all year. And you did have a week of preparation. I could see that being a thing, but I just don't want to I can't spread out more personally. So I'm not going for all of that, but that is certainly a game that you could get after. I think Stevenson's a great running back. I just don't know if I'm going to marry myself to that price, because I would prefer Dalvin Cook in that game script, and probably even, Connor is pretty close with Stevenson for me. How about you, Rody, with that situation?
Man, I don't know. I've been hit or miss with Stevenson all year. I don't even mind the Mac Jones, Jacoby Meyer, Hunter Henry side of it with the cheaper stack, and then bringing Hill and them back in that way. I like the Dalvin Cook call at running back. Algier, you mentioned Walker. I'm getting actually a lot of Walker, Sanders, Brian Robinson. I do have a nice lineup that I really like with Barkley in it as well. I haven't got one with Stevenson in yet. Stevenson, Kamara at that 6'8", 6'9" price range, I do like. I am getting a little worried about Stevenson with Damian Harris, I think he is confirmed back. So it is a tough situation. I'm also not really getting up to Eckler either. One guy I do like today, Jamal Williams. He needs 150 yards the rest of the season to get a 250K bonus. I mean, so I think he's going to get some more work. I know Swift's in there, but I mean, they want to keep Jamal with the touchdown leads.
Yeah,
and he needs some yards. So I think that's where you get different. You play one of those running backs, and hopefully Goff or doesn't get the shootout. And maybe the running backs can get 2 or 3 touchdowns instead of Goff. So if you're fading a high owned Goff, like I know Sheets wants to play a lot of Goff because he's popping, but like a way they don't get there is if they give up a bunch of score a bunch of touchdowns on the ground. So to leverage off that Goff stat, guys, play some Jamal, play some Swift, mix it up. If you're MME and stuff in there, I would have those guys, I think, as well. So, yeah, I mean, I'm pretty tight with my running back so far. I really like those main guys, Algier, Sanders, Walker. I put them in my article today as my main 3, Saquon, Brian Robinson. I need to get to some more CMC. I'm probably a little worried. But, I mean, San Francisco doesn't have to play much for that game either, right?
Yeah, they do.
They blow out fast and get to the other guys, right?
Well, the only worry is that they would win too easily, but it matters whether they can pass the count. If they get the 2 seed and don't have to go to it's not to Dallas. I'm sorry. They could still get the 2 seed over the Vikings.
Oh, okay.
Because they're 11-4, Vikings and 12-3, and Vikings are, obviously can lose every week because they nearly do every week. I mean, really, like the miracle team of all time was freaking Vikings team.
Dude, I want the Vikings to suck today. I'm sweating 50% owned in the Millie contest in the best ball round 4. I made it Justin Jefferson's own. So if he has a bad game today, I pass 500 lineups. So
for your sake, let's go. I hope that happens.
I'm really hoping so. I might have to play some Justin Jefferson to hedge my best ball a little bit.
Yeah, I gotta get a little bit of hedge, I think, if you're doing that.
And Green Bay is bad against the tight ends. I did really well against the showdown the other day when Hawkinson played Green Bay, or that 3-game, whatever, it was a mini slate or whatever, where Hawkinson went off, or not Higbee. It was Rams and Rodgers playing. Higbee went off against Green Bay, so Hawkinson might be a good play. I know we're not a tight end, but maybe he's a good play, and Justin Jefferson to get all the work, or Delvin Cook, and does a lot of work with running back, which I do like. I'm going to build a lineup with Delvin Cook, Lazard. I think Lazard's going to be in play, so Delvin Cook Lazard combo there. So.
Yeah, I actually, one thing I love the point you made about Jamal Williams, because first of all, I know they're trying to make the playoffs. That's the most important thing, but they love Jamal Williams. He's like the most popular player. Anybody who watched Hard Knocks, he's sort of like the leader on that young Detroit team. So I actually think that if they can find a way to get him that 150, they're going to do it. So I like that call quite a bit. I did forget to mention one stack, and I know there's a lot of them out there, but I am actually in on this Philadelphia thing. I've actually got 10% of it. I don't know why I didn't mention it. It's interesting that Minshew has a big game, is unowned, and then now like nobody's really talking about this game. I think Goddard will get like maybe 6 or 8% ownership. I don't think AJ Brown or Devontae Smith are getting owned by anybody, and I think that's an interesting get weird stack. So I have like 15% Devontae Smith this week. And that's just my like super low owned receiver thing. And then I also I forgot to mention, like I have like 8% Kamara. And I have like Rashid Shaheed on the other side at 4K. I know we're talking about wide receivers, but I just wanted to mention that as a game stack. The wide receivers that I'm most heavy on today are going to be obviously mostly in my stacks. One guy who I feel like maybe a little bit overlooked, I kind of like the San Francisco passing game as a possibility as well. So I don't mind Ayuk. I'm overweight on the receivers from Green Bay. We'll see who they actually are by the time it's all said and done, because we still have Watson with the Q tag. I will be overweight. Looking at my ownerships, I have probably too much Dortch. Probably need to narrow it down a little bit because it seems like I might be reaching with how much I have of him. I'm very overweight. I actually feel like I'm overweight on St. Brown, which is weird because he's so popular, but I'm also playing a lot of fields more than I am the other side. So maybe I can even out, and I'm playing a ton of Komet and some Claypool. I have like a bunch of like 15 to 20%ers like Keenan Allen. Jefferson I have at 30%, by the way. So I did make a pretty hard stance on trying to get some of him. I'm getting like some other weird like KJ Osborne plays on Minnesota in that game just to try and get different in my stacks. I'm getting a lot of Drake London. Even though I hate playing, I love London, but like he gets all their targets, but they just don't throw the ball. But my biggest overweight guys right now, or the guys I'm the highest owned on, are Jefferson, St. Brown, Dortch, the pretty normal guys, and then mixing in AJ Brown, Devontae Smith. I have a decent amount of Chris Godwin, DJ Moore, DK Metcalf. Even in a tough matchup, if it means a single coverage, I'll always take that chance. I'm mixing in matching a little bit of the Giants receivers because I do have a little bit of interest in Daniel Jones, and I have a little bit of interest in Michael Pittman. So those are my receivers, but I think I'm not spread out enough because I've got 50% Dortch, 40% St. Brown, 30% Jefferson, and that just takes up a lot of your lineups right there. So I'd like to spread those guys out a little bit more. Those are just guys who stood out to me, and I don't mind being overweight on. Also, I'm willing to take big gambles at running back today because there's going to be such concentrated chalk on certain guys. And I like Robinson and Algier, but why are they so much better than Zonovan Knight or, I know slightly different price range, but David Montgomery, DeAndre Swift is the same price range, and and Jamal Williams, who will be completely unowned, and Leonard Fournette. So that's my more of my way of getting different than the receivers today, which is sort of the opposite of what I feel like you're supposed to do usually, because the receivers are more highly variance in terms of their usage. But when you're talking about guys like St. Brown and Jefferson, those guys aren't really high variance in usage. They're just always getting tons of targets. So, Rody, why don't you talk about some wide receivers, then we'll jump over to Sheets.
Yeah, I like a lot of the receivers in the Stag. Dortch, I've almost had to X him out for a little while building this morning because he was popping up in like everything. Drake London, I think, is a really good call. I don't mind pairing him if you're going to play a little James Conner. Pair him with him as a main correlation. Brandon Cooks in that Jacksonville game, he got a touchdown last week. He never really gets over 30. It's a little rough, but if you're MME and throw him in there a couple, I don't mind him as a run back at 4,800. Jacoby Myers at 5K, like him, cheap. Sutton is a good run back at 5,100. I think Judy's still questionable too, right? Or did he get confirmed in? No, he's probable now.
They think he's going to play.
Yeah, so Sutton would have looked a little bit better without Judy, but I think still Sutton is the go-to guy. He looks good. Marquise Brown there at 5,500 without no. Hopkins is another possible way to get off maybe the Dortch chalk if you're into that. Keenan Allen I really like. I do like he's a reception monster. So at 7K, he can get you there all day. I do like the Zay Jones, Christian Kirk a little bit. Zay's only 5K. Juju at 5.6 I really like. So those are the guys I'm really sprinkling in a lot, and then I'm on as obvious one. Alan Lazard at 5,400. Watson's out, might be out. That's a good spot for him. I think that receiver spot against the Vikings been tearing it up. So, for what it's worth, I like that play. So I'm really just getting to those guys in my stacks. I'm pair up Juju with Mahomes or Kelsey or Herbert with Allen and Mike Williams. So like Lawrence with Zay or Kirk. So most of my stacks guys has got some of these guys in run backs. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Sheets, how about you?
Yeah, I don't think that. It's fadeable, but you want to play Dortch. Here's the thing about this game. You're probably getting another 2 more games of Kingsbury before he gets fired, and he's just going to do what he always does. I don't care who's quarterback there. He's still going to throw that short passing game. You know what I mean? Like they're going to get Connor the ball a million. You know what I mean? I think that Dortch, especially with Hopkins out. Him and Marquise Brown. I know Blau is not like freaking Dan Marino, but I don't know how they don't get there. If you want to know the truth, so that's. I was just literally.
Maybe you build a stack with that, Sheets. Why not?
Seeing, exactly what that would look like. If I played like Blau with Marquise Brown, with Dortch, with London, right? I'd have to find new guys to play because I wouldn't be able to spend the rest of my money. I'd have 6,500 a player left. You know what I mean? If I did that, I almost want to play 3. I almost want to play Connor also. You know what I mean? Like this is where all the offense is going to be. They're in a dome. Right. Last I checked, Atlanta plays in a dome. Yep. And London is popping as a good play. Why don't you just play all 8 of them? Play Algier too, and hope that game goes crazy. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe. I mean,
Listen, I've done worse things. I've played worse players. I promise you.
Yeah. I actually don't mind that. I just hate stacking Atlanta games in general.
Oh, of course.
Because they just run the ball 74 times. But there's definitely game scripts that can get you there, in a big way. And I kind of like, they get out to an early lead and maybe London catches an early touchdown and you get Algier getting all the work. And then, you have Blau with Brown and Dortch. Why not? I can get on board with that, Sheets. I think that's actually kind of an interesting. And then you could spend up literally for the top players everywhere else.
Yep. So here are the other receivers. So St. Brown, I had to pare down to only 45%. He's just going to get double-digit targets. He doesn't get there if he doesn't. He could still get there if it doesn't get a touchdown. If you want to know the truth.
Yeah.
But and he could listen. Anything's possible. But he's tough for me to fade as well. Garrett Wilson, he's my next highest owned. Another guy that people are going to play. Brandon Cooks, I have like more than 10% of. What other wide receivers are showing up for me? I'm only playing 52 wide receivers today. Drake London, you mentioned. Cortland Sutton, you mentioned. Zay Jones, you mentioned. Tyreek Hill, you mentioned. Pretty much all the guys that you mentioned. Even Zacchaeus from that Atlanta game.
Yes, yeah.
I don't know. But nothing earth-shattering. I still think the Giants cheapos aren't bad. Hodgins and James, but I don't have that much of them. I'll tell you the one guy this is obvious, but I have a grand total, and I'm playing 150, and I'm playing, as I've been every week this year in the Millie Maker. I have out of 150 lineups, I have one lineup with Justin Jefferson. So we'll see what happens.
It feels like he's always that guy. I'm either going to take him like in 30%, or he's going to be.
I can always change my mind because I have 40% McCaffrey. So I can always change my mind.
Yeah, and by the way, everybody keeps saying about Mike Evans in here. I have no problem with Mike Evans today. Absolutely, with that secondary being the way they are, as long as he doesn't drop an 80-yard or 75-yard touchdown pass in the first play like he did last time they played, they might be in business. I mean, they got rolled by these guys. I don't think they got shut out, didn't they? Or at least it felt like a shutout. But yeah, I think it's kind of interesting. Brody, anything else before we jump over? Did you say your guys yet? I'm sorry, I got a little distracted.
Yeah. I gave a bunch of receivers. I think we're good there. Okay. So.
Well, let's jump over to tight ends because I actually think that this is a interesting tight end slate. You have Tyler Conklin in one of the better matchups in football. I'll take a shot there at 2,900. I also like Jelani Woods at 2,800. This guy's super talented, man. You have Foles throwing the ball. He always is throwing the ball to tight ends, going back to the double tight end days of the Eagles. We just know that's what he does. So I like those guys as my spend downs. And I even think that it's kind of funny that this other Sylvester guy puts up a monster game and then no one will play him. So I'm always kind of interested when they don't have another tight end. Zylstra, not Sylvester. But that's one way to get different with your Detroit stack. You can play Zylstra a little bit with Goff. And I'm kind of surprised that no one else is doing that. Evan Ingram, I think, is too high owned. And I love Evan Ingram and what he's doing. And I've been, beating the drum on this guy. I've been waiting forever for this to come to fruition since the first year with the Giants, or I guess it was maybe the second year with the Giants. And then you have the obvious spend up in Kelsey. I'm totally good with that, either inside or outside of the home stacks. The guy I want to mention, though, and I'm just keep coming back to this game, is Higbee. Why aren't we playing Higbee? It's not totally flukish that he put up a huge game last week. Baker likes to throw to tight ends, and Higbee is a really good pass-catching tight end when they let him go out there. Most of the season, he's been held back to block. The Chargers defense has been all over the place. I don't even know what to call them. They're just all over the map. So I think Higbee is a guy at no ownership you want to get overweight on. And then, everyone, I like Hawkinson in those game stacks. I think I'll probably just have him in the game stacks because he's going to have a decent ownership. And I like Godwin. That's my pool. It's a pretty big one, but I have some double tight ends, some double tight end lineups. And I'll throw one more for your 150s. The super shot of the day is to maybe do something really weird and play like a Kittle and Darren Waller in the same lineup together. I think Darren Waller is kind of interesting, and I still believe in the talent of him. How much of him they let go, I don't know. And if you want to play Fant in those game stacks or Otten, that's totally fine with me too. But I just think it's a little bit interesting because I think that with Darren Waller, you have a guy who's probably as talented a tight end in the 4K rate, like 4,300, and he's a guy who could, we played him at like 6,800 before. I know it's not the same situation, but new tight end's a quarterback's best friend. San Francisco is probably going to be putting a lot of pressure, going to have some quick passes out there. So I am throwing him into the mix. I have a lot of tight ends in my mix. The wide receiver is oddly where I'm most condensed. All right, Sheets, why don't you start it off, and then we'll go to Rody.
Yeah, as I mentioned, I have Cole Kmet as my highest owned tight end. And then after that, I have Kelsey next. Two totally different players, right?
Yep.
And then I'm all over the place. Hunter Henry, who Rody alluded to before, Evan Ingram, Higbee, Kittle, Tyler Conklin, and pretty much nobody else over 5%. But all the guys you mentioned, Jelani Woods, Tyler Conklin, I mentioned. It's amazing I'm not playing more of Hawkinson. I mean, what's the guy have to do? But yeah, that's about it.
Yeah, he's got to put up more than 39 or whatever.
Yeah, we got to get in the 40s before we consider him.
It's like trying to figure out why we don't. It's not quite like trying to figure out why we don't play Luka. By the way, if you're playing DFS or anything anytime soon, I think that it's just time to just load. I don't think Luka's even fadeable anymore. I know this sounds crazy. I'm just totally side note. He literally could have had like 103 times in a row. Anyway, sorry. Go ahead, Rudy. Jump on in with the tight end.
Nah, you guys said all the tight ends. I mean, I like Kelsey, Hunter Henry. You mentioned Higbee. I got him in a nice lineup with my Herbert run back. I like that. Jelani Woods at 20, 2.8K, like that. Hawk, I mentioned him in Komet. I don't know if I'm going to get there, but they're solid plays. And then, you mentioned Conklin, which I like. I'm trying to get to that Seattle Jets game a little bit more, but I like that. And then Evan Ingram and Njoku for Cleveland. He's been getting some work, low ownership there in that Washington game. But then Fant maybe in that Seattle Jets game too, if possible. Besides that, yeah, I'm pretty spread, just loading up on those guys. So.
Did you like Kittle at all, Bobby?
Yeah, I do. And I actually, in all honesty, I have Kittle and Ayuk in some San Francisco stacks, especially on FanDuel. Somehow they built a little better over there with running it back with Adams or Jacobs. So yeah, I do. I just like a lot of guys. He's not my top guy, but he is definitely one of the guys I'm going to mix in. All right, let's talk real quickly about defenses. I think there's going to be some pretty obvious chalk. And I say that where I actually thought this was a day where the Niners might have ended up like 50% owned. They're going to be like probably 20-something% owned. But so are the Falcons, because we got the Arizona, we got the Blau thing. And then the Patriots. Those are the three top owned defenses. And they all make sense to me. What I don't understand is, look, if no one's going to play, if people aren't going to be on Minshew and aren't going to be on that game, shouldn't we play the Saints defense at 2,200? Shouldn't we play the Packers defense at 2,300 against, look, the biggest defensive performances of the year go against Cousins every year. Every year you get a weird 2-touchdown or 3-touchdown game against him. He's already had a 3-touchdown and a 2-touchdown game against him earlier this year. I'll take my chances on those guys and maybe even forego some salary in some spots, because the Niners and Falcons at higher ownership, and even the Patriots, when you can play these other teams at 1/10 the ownership, give it to me. So those are my main defenses, and not really finding the need to spend up. But if you did, I have no problem if you want to play like the Chiefs or Commanders. Commanders would probably be a pretty good one. But yeah, I think you've got some pretty good options to mix it around and do the Sheets 10% of whatever, everybody, for the Sheets defense model. So Sheets, talk about what you're doing at defense, and then we'll get to Rody.
Yeah, like I said, first thing is to make sure I'm not playing more than 15% of any defense if I'm multi-entering. Yes, the San Francisco defense, rates the best, but there are others that you can play. Let me just see how I'm ranked. I actually have the Falcons, not bad. Patriots against Miami, Jets. I have the Eagles more than the Saints. I have the Eagles at 4K. Actually, I have some of that. Packers, you mentioned. I think the Texans are pretty good at 2,500 against Jacksonville. But the sleeper, I'm getting some. I like the Commanders at 3K.
Okay.
Against Cleveland.
Yeah, I can get on board with with that. Yeah, I mean that's the one I like, but I like that 2,500 there with the Houston at no ownership. I think it's kind of interesting. Rody, how about you for defenses? I think it's obvious that the Niners, Falcons, and Patriots are going to be the only.
Yeah. I'm not even on those ones. I like the Packers and the Saints, or I talk about them in my article on the site today, guys. Too.
Beautiful.
So like those are my two spend downs. I have Packers in most of my defense right now. The one spend up I don't mind that's a little different. The Giants. I watched Nick Foles play the other night, and wow, can he not move out of the pocket? I mean, that guy should just get sacked 10 times. Foles. I mean, he can't move in the pocket. I mean, if anybody gets to him, he just goes down, So he looked pretty bad on that primetime game the other day or whatever it was. So I don't mind paying up for Giants in a Barkley combination. I like today. So yeah, those are pretty much what I'm getting at, So pay down on those, or grab a couple random spend ups maybe.
The other thing I would like to say, by the way, I mean, pursuant to my point about the different slates, I think it's only natural that anybody from either the Charger Ram game, or if you play FanDuel and Yahoo, the Ravens Pittsburgh game are going to be lower owned, just because they don't appear on both slates. So if you happen to like anybody from the Chargers or the Rams, I would play them on DraftKings. And listen, it's a very offbeat thing to like play these guys in like the 8:20 p.m. game. I don't know what people are going to do about it, but on FanDuel, if you want to play something like Najee Harris, like it's a good time to do it. He's going to be like 0% owned, and you got to wait till 11 p.m. Whatever. But on FanDuel, I mean, anybody from that game, like the Pittsburgh side, or you want to play Baltimore's, I mean, they're not even on the DraftKings slate. You know what I mean? I think, again, I don't know how much you like them, but if you did like them, just play them blind over there.
I think that's interesting. I like that point. All right, final takes, guys. Rody, is it going to be? Are we going to go out? I mean, we got one more week. This is usually the last week, but we got one more week of regular season football. Is this the week you're not going to say the Chargers, or are we going to say the Chargers stack is going to win the money?
I thought you were asking me to say the Chargers won.
No, I'm okay with it no matter what. I'm going to have some of that game, so I'm good with it. Mostly in the afternoon slate, but I'm going to have that game.
Yeah, I mean, I like the Chargers. I like Mahomes. I think my couple quarterback spend ups are a good one today. I know a lot of people are going to be chasing all these cheap quarterbacks. I think one of the expensive quarterbacks goes for like 35 today, 40.
Okay, I like that. I think that's a good take. How about you, Sheets? Any big stance that you want to either reemphasize or point out that maybe you didn't mention?
Yeah, all right. I'll reiterate the Arizona Atlanta game. How about that?
Okay, that's a really good stance, and I am going to go with my old man quarterback day, which feels weird.
Anything specific on FanDuel, by the way, Bobby? Because I'm thinking
there's some plays, a few plays, like Lazard's price over there, Ayuk's price over there. Those are the two biggest ones for me. I also think, by the way, like one thing that's really weird, we didn't mention the Raiders defense, but at their minimum
absolutely
on FanDuel, let's do that. I mean, I love Purdy, like he's been great, but like this guy, like they did a thing I was watching. They said he should have had about 2 or 3 picks at least every game so far, and he's kind of gotten away with it. And I still like him, but I'm in on the Raiders and Texans over there as the defenses, but. Most of the other stuff is fairly similar. It's just mostly a little bit easier to get to the top plays. Oh, Tyler Lockett, assuming that he plays a 6K over there.
I think he's playing.
And I think so too. So I think that's just like an egregious price on him. Whether it works today, who knows? But 6K for Tyler Lockett on FanDuel, which is basically like that would be like 4K on DraftKings, like 4,200. That's just is a ridiculous price. So I can get on board with that. Anything for you guys on FanDuel?
Yeah, I have another question. I guess a rhetorical question. When Josh Jacobs and or Devontae Adams smashes at 1% ownership because of the bad quarterback, are we going to be upset or no?
No, because I'm playing those guys on.
FanDuel. Well, there you go. Okay, there you go.
They're my FanDuel plays.
Oh, okay.
Because they're easier to get in, and Adams is. Jacobs. I mean, just because he gets so much of the rushing work and not as much through the passing game, like. It just benefits him better over there, I feel like. But I'm excited. I've got a bunch of lineups to edit.
So just so everybody know, I did go into the Wildcat after all. didn't go with
There you go.
You got the Wildcat. You're not playing the 22-22?
Dude, I can't be a baller like you guys. I got to grind out more hockey and LOL and tennis slates before I can get up to those types of buy-ins, man. I don't know.
Well, the good news is no matter who wins $1 million today, we'll have at least 1% of it.
Okay.
If it's somebody from one of us, you know.
No, I have. What do I have? 0.11% of Rhodey's package. I think.
I think I might have a couple percent of Rhodey's.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, I put in a little bit on Rhodey. I got a feeling for this guy. When I see Rhodey with 17,000 out there, I'm like, ooh.
I had a question. Okay, wait. Here's a strategy question. Maybe it's for another time, but I don't care. So, Rhodey, you have 8 entries in this in the 22-22. Are you making a portfolio of lineups, or are you making like 8 good lineups? Now I say that because these are 2 different things, right? Are you making like your 8 best lineups, or are you making a lineup knowing what your other lineups are? Like, are you making hedge lineups against the other, or do you assume that lineup 8 knows what lineup 1 is? You know what I mean? Are you just making your 8 best lineup?
I made 8 good lineups.
Okay.
I'm making only 1, Rhodey, so you got 7 more chances, 8 more chances. 7 as much a chance.
I would suggest to make one lineup kind of leverage off of one of the other ones now. Like, I don't know how else to describe that, but that's what I would do. But I will be rooting. I'll be rooting with interest. And the thing is, no one's gonna know what anybody has until 4:00 because there's all kinds of like swaps you can do until 4:20. I imagine.
Yeah, there's a lot of swap today. There's like.
But hey, listen, if anybody's alive for anything good, we'll go live at 7. We'll be there. Oh, a couple of announcements. I will have a showdown slate's already posted. I'll probably update it later. NHL starts at about 5. That'll go up by late. Those projections will be updated by 4. NBA is like an 8 p.m.er, small slate, whatever. But I'll have that up by I'll probably do that at the end of the NBA NFL slate, and that's it.
Awesome. Yeah. And just as a side note, I'll be available for recording tomorrow, but I will not be in for live tomorrow. But and I will be out for that's the only day I'm out for live. I'll be out for recording Wednesday. Just throwing that out there.
Okay.
Brody, anything else before we get out of here?
No. Let's get it.
There we go. All right. Let's go.
Later.